Hey, I'm Anish Chaganty. I'm the co-writer and director of Searching, and we are here at Rise, which is Asia's largest tech conference. The movie is about technology told on and via technology. I couldn't think of a better place to help talk about the movie and talk about solutions to some of the problems we present in the film than to the actual people who are at the forefront of this industry. It's a very, very classic thriller told in an extremely unconventional way. Wow. All right. We're about to screen the movie to, I think, 300 or more Rise attendees for the first time. This will be the first time we show it in Asia.
The movie was amazing. Just go see this movie.
Hi, I'm Dr. Summer. Today's road trip, we are going on the set of the film called Searching, and we are at the Rise convention. This is wonderful. Today we're talking about online security for children and how to keep children safe on the internet. They made a really great film about it. The person that wrote the film, he used to work at Google, so you know it's going to be good. Thanks.
Okay.
Hello everyone. Time for our final session of the day. Fresh off the main stage, I am joined by Anish Chaganty, got it in one, and John Cho, the director and starring actor of their new film Searching. For those who haven't seen the trailer, and for those who mightn't be as aware of the plot, would you mind breaking it down for us, what it's about and what the goal of the film is?
Totally. So for those of you guys who don't know what the movie is, John Cho and I just made a movie called Searching. As we like to pitch it, Searching is a very, very, very unconventional story, a very, very classic thriller told in an extremely unconventional way. The classic part about it is that it's about a dad, played by John Cho, him, the man raising his hand, and whose daughter goes missing. He tries to find her. The unconventional part about it is that the whole movie is told on the technology devices that we use every day to communicate. So it's told on laptops, smartphones, tablets, basically as this father breaks into his daughter's laptop to look for clues to find her.
Wow, awesome. So what were some of the challenges of filming that? 'Cause I mean, John, you've got to act a lot of this in the first person, right? Staring down the lens. Was that difficult? But probably a sea change from every other role you played.
Yeah, it was different from anything I'd ever done. Primarily in the absence of other people on set, or rather acting across from you. So it was similar in some ways to green screen work, but in green screen work, other actors are there. This was totally new in the sense that, so we had mounted a GoPro to a laptop so that I could mimic it. Felt like typing, but it wasn't connected to anything, and so I was acting to a blank computer screen, and while not actually hard work, not lifting anything heavy, and I wasn't getting any calluses, it was difficult in the sense that it was tricky to be present. And typically you have, I was saying to Anish earlier that I just felt like a plumber who was accustomed all his career to using a particular set of tools, and then all of a sudden that toolbox was completely gone and I had to figure it out from scratch. And that was also fun, but it was challenging.
Of course, it's opening up a whole new skill set, I guess. It's something that hasn't been done before. So this is the Q&A stage, as you can see. So if you have any questions for John or Anish, you can raise your hand now. If you have any throughout the course of the session, please move to the front so it'll be easier to find you. While they're making up their minds and thinking of some questions for you, Anish, there's an overall message in this film, I guess, that we should be protecting maybe our online identities, or maybe protecting the online identities of our loved ones, especially in vulnerable positions like teenagers. I think it's fair to say. Was that the goal coming into the film, or is there a story behind the plot?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned this briefly outside or in the stage there, but I think for the biggest intention of this movie was I feel like technology, and I'm sure you guys would agree, is that it's so often incorrectly and negatively portrayed in Hollywood. Whether it's like a television show or just the way our UI looks like on our phones, or the actual messaging about themselves as well. We're always told that we're addicted to our phones, we're addicted to likes, that we're alienated, like everything is bad because we look at too many screens. And while I think that's true to an extent, it's sort of like looking at a hammer and saying, hammer is bad, as opposed to hammer is bad, hammer can be good, hammer can be anything, depends on the way you use it. And I think for us, the big objective of the movie was, we're pointing to these negative issues, it's sometimes a little bit about protecting yourself online, but it's also just as much about how technology can allow us to love and to hope and to connect with one another as much as it is the scary part about it. So I think giving the movie a very holistic look at technology was the biggest drive for us, and that was something that I honestly felt like hadn't been done in a movie before.
And John, do you feel, having played this role, has it changed your interactions with social media and technology, or maybe your perspective on it?
I don't know that it's changed it for me. I think that's remained fairly constant, although it has given me pause, in the way that I'm just examining how I might handle it in a few years when my kids are on social media themselves. And, my boy is already so much more advanced than I am. He's so familiar with the computer, and it's a challenge. I spent my teenage years trying to outsmart my parents and trying to take the car and go meet my friends and my girlfriend and stuff. Yes, I had a girlfriend. Why did you question that? No, and so we were all as teenagers trying to get away from our parents, and now we have it's a wake-up call. You have to be super smart in order to protect them.
Absolutely, and as parents of a young child, and the child maybe gone through their teenage years, it's something I feel you have to be aware of and be clued into, and it's maybe something that's not taught as well. I mean, growing up, we were digital natives. We were the first generation to have access to the internet everywhere we went, but we were never told how to be responsible with it, and I feel like that's something that needs to be regulated on a greater scale, and I feel like the movie does a great job of highlighting that. Do we have any questions from the audience? I see a couple of hands up there. Sarah, we'll go to you in the front there.
On the same note, Michelle, let's have you talk about why you chose to get involved in this movie. And in playing the role, did you feel like you understood the angst of teens online and what's happening right now?
I auditioned for this role just at the bottom of the food chain, actor in Hollywood. This is my first feature film role, so it's very, very special to me. But
nice.
Thank you. More on that, connected to the breakdown of the first audition, the production did send over and attach the proof of concept film, and I auditioned for it. I practiced in front of my MacBook, and I opened the photo booth app that you take pictures of yourself, and then I just did my sides and did the audition, and then I got booked, and I was like, cool. But yeah, this role, they used a lot of photos from my actual social media. So Margot is me, and I am one with Margot in a lot of ways, and so it's pretty special for me. Yeah.
I have to ask this question since John is here. So I remember there was a starring John Cho movie. Everyone wants to star John Cho in Hollywood movies. So maybe you can tell us, how is it being an Asian American in Hollywood? Anything you want to share?
Pretty great.
Good answer.
The starring John Cho meme was something started by a guy in New York who decided to bring attention to the lack of Asians in Hollywood by using my face on these posters, and it was an interesting moment for me. in culture, and I mean, personally, it was interesting because there was a lot of attention on me via this thing, but more importantly, broadly speaking, it was an interesting moment because it was a moment of social consciousness through technology, and I thought it was so brilliant because rather than like a traditional means, you know, someone writing a letter to a studio or talking about it at in a class at USC or something, it was a very simple visual message that was spreadable, and and people saw it. You could say, you should cast more Asians, and people could say in response, well, the market's not there, blah, 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 blah. There's a million reasons, there's a million retorts. But the simplicity of seeing the poster, and people went, that's not crazy. That does, it was instant, and it was shared, and it was a cultural moment that happened online, and it was odd to be involved in it because it was my face, but it wasn't me doing it. But so my reaction was somewhat uncomfortable, but as an observer, I found it fascinating and cool.
So my question is for John. Given that the delivery is, as you mentioned, non-traditional, the medium of delivery is non-traditional, was there any a different way or achievement that you had to do for this movie, acting-wise, or like how was it different for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was very difficult for me, even though I'm amazing. Sorry, I shouldn't go to another country and expect these jokes to land.
No.
It was odd because I was not looking at anybody in the face, and I have found that that's the easiest way to act, is to just look into a person's eyes and be honest, and I rely on it, actually. It's very difficult. On occasion, you have to do angles where you have to look at a piece of tape on the edge of the matte box of the camera and stuff, but for the most part, you get to look your acting partner in the eye, unless they're a jerk and go to their trailer on your coverage.
Why are you pointing to me?
But so doing the whole movie, I had to look at a screen, and some of the choreography was very tight, so I just found it difficult to be present when I wasn't looking at a living human being, and again, it's also like you don't have the benefit of any wide shots, or it's all extreme close-ups. And I will say, Michelle, that's one of the brilliant things about your performance is I just felt like I recognized the teenage distance, which is very hard to manufacture, I should say, because I've seen it done poorly a lot, but it was right there on her face the whole time, and it was very, very convincing. But yes, so maybe you should answer the question. How did you do that? Pass the buck.
Yeah, well done. Smooth.
I feel weird giving an honest answer and saying that it felt, I don't know if I want to say easy after you said it was hard, but I mean,
She's a show off.
No.
Show off.
But it's my first feature film, so I don't know if this has messed me up forever, but this is normal for me now. I hope I get to be in Searching 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, because this might be the only thing I ever do. But I don't know. I liked just getting in my imagination about where things might pop up, and it made sense to me. I mean, Anish would say, okay, there's gonna be a window that pops up here, so you're gonna look when I cue you, and it was different, but in a way it just made me be present to the direction. So I guess, I don't know.
I would say also, like, the movie revealed how tech not savvy I was. Because, like, I remember reading the script and he did, texting on the computer, on the laptop, the iMessage. And I was like, do people do that? And 'cause that was one of the questions I had for you, because I wanted to make sure that everything was legit and realistic. I didn't know that people did that. But after we wrap, though, I'm like 80% of my texting is on the laptop now.
On that note, I just wanted to talk a little bit about, what are you guys hoping that the tech community takes away from this movie? And this is open to anyone.
One of the things that we were trying to do from the beginning is, and I think this is the perfect audience, and Rise in general is I feel like tech in media is so often portrayed negatively. I think, if you look at Facebook PSAs or Instagram PSAs or Black Mirror episodes, it's always like we're addicted or we're alienated or, our minds are being messed up and all that stuff. And there's a truth to all of that. But I think when you exclusively tell that and make that this whole story, you kind of don't see the whole picture. And I used to work at Google and for a couple of years, and I think technology has just as much of an ability to alienate and disillusion us as it has the ability to make us like connect and love and fear and hope and all that stuff. And I think like what we wanted to do was just say, hey, technology is not bad, it's not good, it's just is, and it can be used for everything. And I think what the point of the movie was, and the reason that the movie is so emotional, is to, in a weird way, like it shows that point. It's like it doesn't matter. It's not just hurting us, it's not just finding a way for Margot to disappear and for like a catfish character to kind of pop up. It's also like the way these two people connect at the end of the film. It's the way that bad news is delivered and good news is delivered and laughs are delivered. And I think like that ultimately was the point of the film without ever being the point of the film.
Well said. Thank you all so much for joining us.
Detective going online. That page is created by the props or the art department, and they have a couple of weeks to do it. And they're not experts in that. They do all kinds of other things. And this team spent a year after we shot. A year and a half after I went home and had a drink. They went and made the movie, and it was like reverse engineering sets and costumes and characters and lighting, and it was all done in reverse order. And you can see the care, and you should. The testament is that you should forget what you're seeing. You should accept it immediately, and I did, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I just want to touch back on what you said, Anish, because traditional scripts, guy walks into bar, says this, yada yada. You had to actually say, drags window open, searches for thing isn't there. Where's my daughter? So was your script as a result extra long, or was it kind of difficult for you to read, John, or difficult to memorize because he had all these actions involved as well?
Yeah. So have any of you guys read a traditional screenplay before? Okay, a few of you guys. So they're really weird, right? Like every scene starts off with interior, INT or EXT, interior, exterior, where the scene's gonna take place. Then the location, interior house - night. It tells you everything about the scene, and the content of the scene is underneath it. Like John walks into the house, he says hi. For us, if we wrote out every scene location, it would end up looking like interior Google Chrome -Facebook Facebook photos tagged photos -night /continuous or something like that. And we realized very quickly that the language of the story we were telling did not fit into the mold like every aspect of the movie into a traditional screenplay format. So we ended up writing what was called a scriptment, which was what you read as a script, which was basically what we wrote on Google Docs. We put together a big Google Doc of like every single line of action that happens in the movie, just written in a way that we would understand, saying like the cursor moves trepidly to the window over here or something like that. But yeah, it was a big challenge to sort of translate a normal movie into the screenplay.
What I realized later on was how much work there was, because it could be a line of text in the scriptment that says, you know, David scrolls down to Margot's Facebook page. That seems very simple, and that's just one sentence. But that requires
so much work.
So much work. All these profiles that were painstakingly drawn so that you, if this ever comes out on Blu-ray, and it will, but like you could pause it at any moment, search it, and find it authentic, zoom into any moment.
That's the best part about the movie for me, is like if you like we had to make this movie, I call it pause-worthy, because if you pause the movie and you looked around the frame, it all has to make sense. It can't just be a bunch of lorem ipsums, you know, like which we all use as like temp when we're putting together a website. Like, you know, and that's what we originally had. It was lorem ipsum, lorem ipsum, lorem ipsum. When we quickly paused it, we're like, shit, we have so much work to do. So if you pause the movie now, you'll see like 9 other storylines that are happening simultaneous to the main plot of the film, just by looking at email subjects or email headers and all of that stuff going on. But as far as the challenge goes, I remember the editors, we had 2 editors who I think deserve Academy Awards for this movie because it's so complicated what they did. But like I remember them looking at the script and being like, Anish, it says a cacophony of images fly by the screen. How are we supposed to make a cacophony of images fly by the screen? Anyways, it was a massive challenge to put together, and it's just why it took a year and a half.
When we watch the film and we pause it and we go to search for those people you made up on Facebook, did you make profiles and pictures and holiday albums and favorite albums and all that
So
stuff?
every single asset and photo you see in this movie is somebody whose photo and the photo owner we had to get cleared. So they're almost all of them are my friends or Sev or Natalie's friends. They're all names we had to get cleared. We had to get their photos on Facebook. The whole movie takes place. A lot of it takes place on Facebook photos, and you see a lot of photos. And the daughter in the film is in high school. So basically, I went to all of my friends' Facebook and like clicked on their profile picture, and then went one left to their earliest photo and like stole those, and then basically got a massive list of photos that I had from all my friends. I mean, we're talking like into the thousands, and then put them in the movie, and then afterwards had to look at every photo and get legal to sort of go through and get every name cleared, every photo cleared, every person in every photo cleared, and then obviously the photo owner cleared for everything. I'm never doing this again, but I really hope you enjoy the one thing we did do.
Your friends just got 8,500 friend requests overnight when the film comes out as well. Right, we're going to have a few more questions from the crowd. If you have any, stick your hand up. I see one over here, madam, if we get the microphone over to you.
Oh, you saw it?
It was amazing. If you didn't try, you should. The question is this. I realized that for nowadays that an anonymous who is not John Cho can act and take a video, and they can modify into as if the John Cho took the video, right? So how do you think about that? Maybe another one can substitute a real actor, and the other thing that is that nowadays the actors just use their facial expressions, and the computer programmers modify and change that images into kind of that another like monster or animal. So how do you think about these changes?
That's a big question.
You worried about getting trolled by people with...
So basically you're saying like somebody can just put their face on John's body and then send it off as their own work. Well...
Are you afraid of 4chan?
You know, I still think that technology, our human eye can sense authenticity. And, you know, if you see a heavily CGI'd movie, I think the highest compliment you can pay it is, that looks really good. And versus believing it, you know? And it's the difference between a practical explosion. If you see like the old Star Wars movies, of course it's not logical that there's an explosion with sparks in space. but you're seeing something explode, and you know it's not actually the Death Star. You know that it's some model, with a firecracker in it, but you don't say that looks great. You just believe that there's an explosion because it is. And I still think the human eye sees something and can see a person and know that it's a person, and we can see a facsimile of a person and can say that looks amazing, that looks great, but not believe. We're not quite there. I don't know how soon we'll be there. It could be tomorrow, it could be never, I don't know, but we'll figure it out. I feel like I'll be dead.
Don't say that. Technology moves pretty
That's
quick.
true.
Actually, it's 2 minutes from now, so it'll be fine. You're gonna strip that space.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's almost like with phones, we are artificial intelligence. We just voluntarily became robots into a large extent. That's another discussion. Sorry.
We just kind of got in their way. Well, we got another 5 years until they completely destroy us anyway. So, any more questions from the crowd? Stick your hand up. See this lady in the front here, and another one. If you want to just move to the front, we'll get you afterwards. All right?
Hi, first of all, I want to say that I really, really loved the movie.
Oh, you saw it too. Awesome.
Of course, yeah. So, one of my questions is production-wise, acting-wise, and story-wise, what's the biggest backlash that you're afraid of receiving because of this movie?
Ooh. Biggest backlash that I'm afraid of. Oh, never work again. You're terrible. I don't know. I think biggest backlash that I'm afraid of. Do you have an answer to that?
I think for me, I don't want people to see this as some kind of polemic about our lives online. What it is, we are merely recognizing that we live our lives online, and we're not trying to say we should stop being online. And there's a story that involves a person that goes missing, so there is danger, and it involves and the mechanics of it are done online. But I don't think the film is out to make a statement about that. If anything, it's really like it's an exploration of data. There's so much data right now, that more than there ever was in the history of humankind. And data doesn't necessarily mean knowledge or truth. And so David, my character, can look up a lot of information about his child, but does he know her? And it is distinguishing between the two and an exploration of that. But I don't want people to think that we're out to make some sort of sweeping statement about technology.
Yeah, agreed. I don't want us to come off like we're vilifying or antagonizing technology. And I think that is, I keep saying this, is like, this movie is not a attack on tech. This is like, hopefully will be an accurate portrayal for once. And I think like if I'm worried about backlash, it's maybe something ignorant being said about that. But yeah, hopefully people just see the movie and then anything they say is technically valid, So.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone's going to see the movie and think you guys are Luddites or anything. You know what I mean? You're not afraid of tech. I think you're making a very valid point that there are a lot of protections online that haven't been afforded to a certain generation, but now we're more self-aware.
Sure, yeah.
And I think the movie represents that in a good way. We had a question at the front here, if she's still there. How you going? We're actually running low on time, guys. This is going to be our last question, so fire ahead.
First of all, congratulations on your movie.
Thank you.
And just a question for Anish. I was just slightly curious, given that you're from a South Asian background, if you would ever consider giving a helping hand to Bollywood.
I've been okay.
Good question.
My parents ask me that a lot. Yeah, I think I would. I think for the moment, I think the next few projects are lined up. It'll be will be a little more English based, but that is absolutely something I would be open to doing in the future.
Why did she not ask me that?
John, would you star in a Bollywood film?
That sounds like tremendous fun.
How's your
That's
dancing?
tremendous fun.
You're good at moving. You can join in a mass dance brigade. There we go. Happy days. You got the role. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave it there. Give it up for Anish and John. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.